Welcome to the Alchemy for Authors podcast. I'm your host, Jo Buer. If you're an author, aspiring author, writer, or wordsmith, you're in the right place. Join me every week as I chat with authors and industry professionals and share my own experiences about using manifestation and mindset practices to supercharge our writing lives. We'll explore ways to overcome writer's block and imposter syndrome. We'll find motivation and inspiration to get our butts in the chair and our stories written. And most importantly, we'll embark on creating lives and livings doing what we love. If you've ever dreamt of a prolific, wealthy, happy or healthy author career or writing practice, then this show is for you. So let's dive into Alchemy for Authors. Hello, my writerly friends. So it's so good having you join me for another wonderful conversation with a thought leader in the author world. But before I get to that, let me just remind you of two fabulous goings on right now that might be of interest for you. So the first is my friend, millionaire author coach and best-selling author Carissa Andrews from Author Revolution has opened the doors to her amazing signature course, The Rapid Release Roadmap. So if you've ever considered rapid releasing to increase your backlist and your revenue, but have no desire to burn out while doing so, then this is the course for you. So I'm in the process of taking it right now, and I can honestly say I love, love, love it. So much so that, yes, I am an affiliate for it, but that is simply because I really do believe in the power of this course to up-level authors' careers. So if you're interested in checking it out, you'll find the link to do so in the show notes. Secondly, I know that as writers, we are also readers. So as we find ourselves in the midst of spooky season with Halloween just around the corner, you'll find my Gothic suspense novels and short story collections discounted 50% off for the month of October. So you can head on over to payhip.com/Jo Buer and use the coupon code SPOOKY. That's SPOOKY when you check out. And it's as easy as that. Just a reminder that it only applies for the month of October and for my ebooks. Now, on to today's show. So, if you have been following this podcast for a while, you know that I truly do believe that each and every one of us is put on this planet for a reason. And those dreams, those burning passions, we have an obligation to ourselves and to those around us to make those desires a reality. Today's guest is here to talk about following that inner guidance to manifest your soul's desire. For her, it was all about writing her first book, stepping out of the spiritual closet, and embracing the transformative power of writing a book and living in alignment with her purpose. So if you've ever been curious about what it looks like to follow your inner guidance, chase your dreams, and transform your life with writing at the center, then this is the episode for you. So when you're ready, my friend, grab a drink, find a comfy chair, sit back, and enjoy the show. Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to another episode of Alchemy for Authors. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with the lovely Nadia Krauss. Nadia is the author of The Magic of Transformation, Igniting and Manifesting Your Soul's Desires. Her passion for soul health and divine self-expression comes alive when she's able to take her clients through a soul realignment power retrieval process. When true love was about to die and her ex-business partner called her a loser, Nadia and her husband made a bold move. They sold everything they owned to go and live and work on a cruise ship for 2 years, after which they relocated from Germany to the US. This bold move not only led to the revival of their marriage, but also the creation of a business built on the foundation of self-love leadership. So welcome, Nadia, to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you.
So your bio is just so fascinating to me. So I'd really like to start there. If you can just talk a little bit more about the big life shift that happened and how that eventually led to you writing a book as well.
Yes. So before the big life shift happened, I had already made the decision, hey, I want to write a book. And it was my very first business that I created in Germany. It was called Fitness for Body and Soul. I was 24 years young. So you can see I was always interested in soul. And I was doing the typical kind of group training fitness studio thing, aerobics, step aerobics, yoga, but this inner whisper, and that's really what igniting soul desire, that whisper doesn't make sense necessarily, but it's just kind of, I want to write a book. And that was in the year 2002. And then nothing happened for years. And I had my very first book coaching weekend with a one on one book coaching mentor. That was 2007. So 5 years later, that title was born, The Magic of Transformation. And it was in German and it was a different tagline, but the essence of it was born. And I remember so clearly that book coach and mentor telling me everything that you're going to do from here on out in your life is going to be content for your book. And it was now I can like, oh my gosh, she said that. And I was literally creating content, not creating consciously, but I was collecting content for my book through my life. So the big thing that happened was, and you can't make this stuff up. You really can't make this stuff up. We left Germany on a very auspicious date. It was 11, 11, 11. And we didn't book that flight. That's why I say you can't make it up. So there was this pre-story to the intention. I really want to write a book. I want to write a book about, now I can say soul health. Now I can say igniting and manifesting soul desire. Back then at age 24, I didn't have those words. So the thing that happened with me and my husband was just that I had tried everything to build a business in Germany. I had the soul desire ignited. I was looking for how can I manifest it? And Germany is a very different place than the United States. And the very first time I told a friend, hey, I want to write a book and I want to build a business around it, this German with a German mentality literally said to me, what do you want to write a book for? Just go work.
Uh,
So that's the story behind that. And we had to leave because I had tried everything. Nothing was working. My husband wasn't happy. We had no more options. We had come to like an end of a road kind of thing. And then our marriage also suffered. And we felt like we can't go any lower. And we did a really challenging thing. Now I can also say that adventure, it was quite the adventure. And it wasn't as easy as we thought it would be.
no, so that's 2 years on a cruise ship,
Yeah.
especially if you've already come from a bit of a rocky place because you said somebody that you worked with called you a loser.
Yeah, it unfortunately, I can talk about it now and it's all good. It's healed. I've processed it. But at the time, I was already thinking of myself as a loser.
Mm.
So it just was rubbing salt in the wound. And it was meant to do that because the person was upset for me setting a boundary that was, no, I'm not going to follow through with this business. I've been married for 16 years. I know you for 2. I am going to choose my husband over you. I mean, that is for me very logical. But in that moment, that person was hurt and then knew where to rub the salt. And it really landed because I felt like a loser. I was heartbroken when I left Germany. And now it's that thing that I can talk about because it was my ex business partner called me a loser. And I realized that had nothing to do with love. And that's where that whole aspect of building a life and a business and self-love came from.
I have noticed in my own life and other people's as well that sometimes it is those really horrible moments that are the catalyst for the best things in our life. And we don't see it at the time. When we're starting to get those whispers from the universe, I think you called them whispers before, soul whispers or inner whispers. And if we ignore them, then it's almost like the universe likes to shake it up to make it too uncomfortable to ignore them so that we can get out of our comfort and actually start to move forward a little bit. And sometimes that can be through some nasty situations, like it sounds like you went through. So, what was those 2 years like on the cruise ship then? Because you said it wasn't as easy as you thought. Was there any point you wanted to just give it up and go back to Germany?
So it started with a challenge. You follow your heart and you bring the courage to the table, and then you make a plan, and then everything goes different. And the plan was we're going to get on a cruise ship together. And so my husband actually went through bar training school because I had the fitness background and I had worked at a rock climbing facilities. So I was able to get onto the cruise ship as a sports staff with my rock climbing and my fitness. But he came from like logistics. That's more an on land job. That's not a cruise ship job. So he became a bartender. He did a 6-week thing and he did his thing and he passed. So you go through this whole process of onboarding, hiring, and you go into a hiring pool. But here's what we didn't know, because you just don't know what you don't know, right? There's only very specific couples like dancers and entertainment and medical staff that will get placed on the same ship.
Oh.
They separated us.
Oh.
So we worked on separate ships in separate contracts for 7 months.
Oh my gosh.
We were separated.
Wow. So that is a big life shift, because you'd said that, your relationship was suffering a little bit in Germany, and then you're forced to be apart for 7 months. So that is really tough.
Yes. And you said something that is exactly, I mean, your language around it can be different. It can be the universe or your higher self or your soul or your whatever you put in there. But funny enough, as hard as it was on the human aspect, it's what we needed, because we both define true love as choosing each other every single day.
Mm.
And when one partner is not certain anymore, then that choice has to be strengthened. And for my husband, that being apart, that's that saying, the heart grows fonder in absence, right?
Yeah.
He chose me every day. He chose me every day. He chose me every day. And he started seeing that the things that his mind was telling him, because we got married really young. We met at 18, got married at 20. I mean, that's very young.
Yes.
And then there can be this voice, and I think that was his voice. It is a typical voice that tells you things that aren't true, really. But, oh, what if I missed out? What if there's something better out there? And that was always his struggle. And during that contract where we were separated, he really, really firmly decided, no, this is the woman for me. This is who I want. And he saw other people leading the lifestyle that he thought he wanted, and them being really unhappy and looking for love.
Ah. Yeah. Oh, that's good. So it obviously had a positive ending. And so this experience, the 2 years on the cruise ship, was that you gathering information for your books? Did your book come much later, or did you start it while you were on the ship as well?
I love that you asked that question, because it really did play a part. So working on the cruise ship, then we had 3 contracts in total. So you're on there about 6.5, 7 months, and you have shore leave, you have a holiday, and then you go back. So the last 2 contracts we did together on the same ship. And when I was separated, it was necessary. That was that higher self guidance. It was necessary. It was the medicine we needed as a couple. And I started in the first contract already. I was in all these beautiful locations. And I'm someone that gets inspired by beauty. And this is the wonderful thing. You asked me, what is it like to work on a cruise ship? To the outside world, it's going to look really fantastic and romantic and this and that. And it is partially. The part that is so fantastic and romantic and whatever is when you're on shore leave for 4 hours and you have nothing to worry about. You don't have bills to worry about. You don't have to worry about going grocery shopping. But the work itself is really tough, because it's customer service, and anybody that knows what it's like to work in customer service, and you're there for 6.5 to 7 months, and you're actually done after 2. You're done after 2, and then you have to push through. But the thing that I found was that shore leave and these amazing locations, and I would write little blogs. And the little blogs, then my book did become little parts of blogs, and then new things added because time passed. But yes, I'd started on the ship.
That's cool. And so at what point did you make your mind up that 100% you were going to write a book? Like, was there a point that was kind of the tipping point where you were all in?
Yes. And here I think I speak to something collective, and I find that fascinating. 2020, the pandemic.
Ah, yes.
I felt it in my bones. All of a sudden, I just felt it in my bones. At the time, I was still working. So there was 2 things I was feeling in my bones. I was still working as a corporate health coach. And I was like, this is not I want to talk about soul health. I want to talk about all encompassing health, but not corporate health and not health insurance and not sickness and medication and victimhood mentality, because that was there a lot, in the employment situation. So yes, 2020 was that I feel it in my bones. I need to get myself the help that I need to get this book done. And that's what I did.
Wonderful. So, what was the process for you? How did you find help? And then how did you go about getting it written?
I love it. I love, because it's so important that the listeners hear that. So I had realized that I have a big story to tell, but the big story always got too big. I started and it would get bigger and bigger and bigger and it would just freeze me. I'm like, no, I can't do this. So I would stop. So the help came in form of a Facebook post, again, divine synchronicity, divine orchestration. And it was a Facebook friend that had co-published, like co-authored a book with a publisher called As You Wish Publishing, and then said, hey, Kira and Todd from As You Wish Publishing, they're doing this book writing course, 3-month book writing course, sign up. And because I felt it in my bones, and because I knew her, and then she even said, this is an affiliate link. And then I was like, hey, win-win for everybody. And I just signed up with that very firm intention. They're going to help me. And there's a really fantastic story behind it. May I share it?
Yes, please do. Absolutely.
So I got the tools that I needed. They did a fantastic job of having this book building course. But what really did it for me was when the tip came. There was many tips because we're all different. It was a group coaching thing. We all need different things. But my aha came when Kira shared the 100-page book idea. So the small, helpful book. I unfortunately don't remember, Mike Capuzzi, I think is his name. He wrote a book about publishing mini books, but she just mentioned it. And all of a sudden, again, my body, my bones, my inner being just kind of like, oh, that's it. I want to tell like a big story in 100 pages. I want to be so in the quintessence of the story that it can be told in 100 pages. And then I got the book of Mike Capuzzi just so I can read about it. It's that positive ripple effect. He helps other authors do that. But I didn't need to work with him because I was working with Kira. But just by getting his book, and he explained how do you build a 100-page book, I was able to write, I think it was 6 or 7 chapters of the book. And then my mom passed away.
Oh.
And it became part of the book because there's a healing story. There's another big story in there. And that's why I wanted to tell you that the intention was there, then everything got orchestrated over the years.
That's amazing. And so I'm seeing this theme with your work and with your story so far of really following that inner guidance and that intuition, or whatever you want to call it, those inner whispers and things like that. And I've definitely noticed just in the short time I've done this podcast, a lot of people had a lot of those aha moments during the pandemic, during 2020 in particular, set them on the path. But how do we go about noticing those whispers? Like, are there times when we might be getting them, but we're pushing them aside or we're ignoring them? So how can we be more cognizant of what they are or them being there?
Beautiful question. And it actually also ties into my book in the sense that it's a memoir. It's supposed to be a memoir, self-help, self-reflection. So after every chapter of the book, I've posed questions that help you identify the whispers.
What can we ask ourselves if we're maybe thinking we're getting those whispers, but that, that self-doubt comes in? There a question that we can ask ourselves to give more clarity as to whether it is actually something we should pay attention to?
Yes, there's definitely something you can do. So there's your personality, and your monkey mind is going to yap really loud. So it's like yap, 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 yap. And it's also going to distract you. And then even if you're following the path of, oh, there's this whisper and it's telling me I need to write a book, there's going to be this yap, 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 how you're supposed to go about it. There, I would really say, check in with yourself and ask yourself, is this a mental thing? Or is this literally the soft whisper that's in my heart that doesn't let go of me? Because think about my story. It was just an idea in 2002. There's lots of people that have an idea to write a book and they never do.
Yeah, that's true.
They never do. They never do because it wasn't meant to be. I really do think what is meant for you cannot pass you by. And you can identify a soul whisper because it won't let you go.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
It's
I
just,
love that. Now, most people who have written a book or been on that author journey find that there are certain aspects of it that are harder than others. Is there
yes.
something that was really challenging to you during the process?
Yes. This I wrote a transformational book. That was the intention. That's the title. And because it was such a long journey and there was different mentors, there was different courses, and I would write these little pieces, these little blogs. So I was working on it, but not how your mind says it should look, right? So it's trusting the process. And then I'm going to share another book coach mentor that helped me on my path. And it was Christine Closer and her transformational author summit. And her saying in that summit that if you write a transformational book, you're going to go through a transformation. You're going to be a different person at the end of the book. And that's what happened. And that's where the transition of my mom started playing a role into that. And the chapter that is then dedicated to the story of my mother and what happened is literally called A Mother's Love and a Daughter's Healing. And it is about ancestral healing. And it's about the story that ties into my life story. But the block that came up then was the fear of becoming the new person. I had 3 chapters left and I couldn't write. I was like frozen. And it was because the book was also something where I so openly speak about my biggest passion. I didn't even realize until my publisher, Kira, in the editing phase, I said, Kira, do you think it's okay that I capitalize soul? And then she says, Nadia, you've used the word soul in a 100-page book. You have used it 189 times.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's okay to say that soul is important to you. And when she said that, I found myself at the crossroads. Why am I a corporate health coach? Why am I trying to build an online business and I'm niching myself as a perimenopause education coach? Why am I not going to speak about the things I'm most passionate about? And I was so scared. So it was a little bit like a coming out of the spiritual closet for me. And that was huge. There was a lot of fear.
That is cool. I find that so fascinating. I think for most of us, our first books in particular really do change us, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. It requires something in us to go through that entire process of writing the book, editing the book, and then getting it published and everything that can be quite transformative. So, for yourself, how did you manage to move through that then when that fear came up and made you freeze partway through this book? How were you able to overcome that and move through that?
So, what I think is really important to realize is that it's really important to gift yourself support. And I say this because it's funny how society thinks that because this happened in Germany as well when I was a fitness trainer or coach, they think you're a fitness trainer or coach and you've got it all figured out. And what? You have a coach? What? What? I'm confused. That's how people react. And it's so silly because if I support people all the time in my one-on-one work, I need someone to have my back. So to this day, I still get the support I need. And that was the situation there as well. I had Kira and Todd as my mentors in that moment. And first I reached out via email, and then there was a Facebook group. And then I was just like, hey, is this my ego showing up? And then they would soothe me and say, yes, this is normal. Just like you mentioned, it doesn't even matter. It's just that process of writing a book. It's normal and just move past it. And I tried on my own first, but then it was really strong, the block. And I was like, I can't do this on my own. So I actually paid for an extra intensive. So I literally was like, okay, I need a breakthrough session. And the amazing thing is, in an hour, we were broken through and I wrote my 3 chapters and I was done.
Oh my gosh.
She
Wow.
helped me. She helped me see what was going on and what was happening. And it's that blind spot that you can't see. And that's why you engage the troops.
Yeah, absolutely. So, would that be your advice then, that when we do find ourselves stuck or that writer's block, or we just freeze partway through, would that be
Yeah.
your advice then to seek help?
The advice would be to seek help. And Kira understood that it's not that the creativity is blocked, not at all. It is that you're self protecting because you're no longer feel safe. So we identified, because I was coming out of the spiritual closet, and your personality is like, oh my gosh, are you crazy? Why are you going into territory you don't know? And everybody has their own version of it.
Yeah.
So she helped me identify it. Then she gave me the tool, the writing tool, the way she also works. I forget what it's called. It's like some kind of typing system. It might be the Myers-Briggs. It might be that she knew what type I was, and it was amazing because she knew what type I was. She knew exactly what exercise to give me, and I was flabbergasted because that was easy. So it was first identifying what you're self-protecting from. What do you think is going to happen? It's an illusion, but it needs to be identified. And then she gave me the tool from her years of experience. So definitely, because look, I could have chosen to not seek help. The book might not be finished by now. I might have been in that block for years and years and years, and I knew that it wasn't worth it.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So, in the end, when it came to publication, did you go the indie author route, or did you get it traditionally published? How did you go about getting your book out there in the world?
So there's another great story. Oh boy. I'm so grateful that I can share because it really is the magic of transformation. So something magical happened that I didn't see coming. So Kira and Todd, As You Wish Publishing, is a self-publishing house, and they help you self-publish on Amazon. And I signed up with them because referred by a friend, win-win for everybody. But I think that wouldn't have been enough alone. What was in their bonuses or in their description of their course was you can enter into a book writing contest. So what happened was that I was able to enter my manuscript. It was not completed yet. It was 6, 7 chapters, but I was able to enter it into the competition, and my inner critic sat on my shoulder, and that was another story. You wouldn't believe what my inner critic was telling me, how terrible I'm writing, how pathetic, really, really bad stuff, pathetic I am. Who do I think I am to think that people are going to understand what I'm trying to say? So it was really, again, that heart's desire that had to be stronger than the fear. So I submitted it, and I won the book publishing package.
Oh my gosh.
So I
That's,
published through As You Wish Publishing. Yes.
oh, that is wonderful. That is cool. And so, As You Wish Publishing, you said they help indie authors and whatnot. So, what parts of the process did they do for you, or did they do it all? Did they do the marketing and everything as well, or what did they do for you?
So I think things have changed now. So I'm just going to, a disclaimer. So at the time, it was a really great package. It was basically the editing, the formatting, the getting it all on Amazon, the cover, the marketing, the Amazon marketing, and that was all included. I don't think that package is available anymore. Now I think they've reduced it because they have other businesses as well. So they've reduced it now. You can publish with them and they will get it on Amazon, but they no longer have the editing service or the marketing service. Yeah.
Wow. So that was amazing that just all worked out. So that's a nice little sign that it was meant to be, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, from your perspective, how writing and publishing your first book and getting it out in the world, how did that transform your life? How did that affect you?
Yeah, it did. It did absolutely. The first thing, that coming out of the spiritual closet. So in the book, I mentioned there's a chapter and it's called The Book of Life. And I talk about, this is the work I do today. So I work with the Akashic Records. I do readings, clearings, and healings. And I'm a practitioner, a certified soul alignment practitioner. But I've been opening my records since I was a teenager. And that was just an intuitive process. And you can imagine the Akashic Records. This is the best way to explain it. Imagine a spiritual Google search option of the Book of Life, of your Book of Life, and all the answers you're seeking and the higher vantage point answers, they are there. And just like Google, if you ask good questions, you get great answers, like succinct. If you ask bad questions, they all fuzzy. So that's the best way. And I wrote about that in the book because it's a memoir. And I wrote the book also with the intention, I'm going to tell the story about transformation. I'm going to help the reader connect to their soul whispers, but I also am going to be courageous and get certified and start working with people one-on-one because it's very different. And that's how it changed. It helped me step into the work I do today.
That is amazing. And so do people come to you for the soul retrieval process who are wanting to be authors as well? Have you had anybody or who want to do something in the creative realm that are coming to you to find a way to maybe step forward because maybe they're being held back in fear or something, whether they're artists or podcasters?
That's a really great question because I can speak to the part where our mind contrives this thing. So the soul and the soul whisper was whispering, write down your story. Write down your story. 2020 was like, now is the time, right? And then all these beautiful synchronicities that I was able to share with you, where it really does feel like, oh my gosh, this book was really meant to be out there. But your mind contrives, even though you need to use your mind, of course. My mind was like, okay, this is going to be a book that helps me do the work I do. And then this is the part where the market is really loud. That's what I mentioned with everybody's going to tell you what to do. And unfortunately, it is not necessarily heartfelt or true or integrity. It's just selling something. It's very loud. And what your book is going to be this lead magnet and it's going to attract all these clients. That is not true. So that's the first thing. That is not true. I have not yet. I'm not saying it won't happen, but not in the constellation where people are selling their courses. They're making you buy because that's what they're promising. That promise is not to be guaranteed. For some, it might be that way, but it's not a guarantee. So the book has become a tool to talk about my story and the work I do. And also it has become a tool where, as an online business owner, I'm getting a little lonely, like sitting in front of my computer. So it's the tool where I can go to a bookstore and I can say, hey, can we organize a book signing? And then when they get to know me live, then I think the bridge to the soul realignment, reading, clearing, healing is much like shorter because they've already felt me. The people that come to the soul realignment, reading, clearing, and healing right now are clients that are either facing a challenge where they're just looping and they're like, why am I not reaching my goals? Why? What's happening? What am I not seeing? So it's either that, the challenge, or it is that more the inspirational side where it's like, oh, I have this desire and I want to know what my gift is. So I have this goal and I want to know what my spiritual gift is. So there's sometimes it's the pain and the challenge, and sometimes it's just like, oh, I want to know what my gift is. And I want to know how I can use my gift to manifest my soul desire.
Oh, I love that. I love all this kind of thing because I do believe that we've all got our different gifts and our different purposes and that, and we get those little signals or those whispers and that through our life to guide us into the right path. And one of the reasons behind creating this podcast is I wanted to talk to that and about that in relation to those people that feel that drive in the realm of writing, whether it's to be an author or a poet or a blogger or any kind of writing. Quite often, those of us that are really drawn to that, like drawn to anything, we really feel it as that deep passion.
Yeah.
If we've got that niggling calling and we feel like that's really what, part of our purpose and part of what we're supposed to be doing, but we're struggling for some reason. I know you'd said some people come to you because they're feeling they've got challenges. So it comes across like some blocks and that. Other people, they just want more direction as far as what their gifts are to move forward. Is there common themes deeper than that hold people back? So maybe they know what their gift is, but they're not quite moving forward with that gift. And so is there a common theme that you often see that is stopping people from really getting into alignment with who they are and who they're meant to be?
Absolutely. And it's a bigger story. The story is that we've had to function as a culture and society to survive really harsh terrain for thousands of years, right? So there were times where we lived where we weren't safe, where we had to be tribal. Our life depended on it. But that is still ingrained in a modern world where that's no longer necessary. But that behavior is still subconsciously anchored. So it's the conditioning. Think about how we grow up in this life. We grow up in school and we get told to work on our weaknesses. Excuse me? So I'm spending all my time working on my weaknesses, taking me away from my strength and my gift, taking me away from my power. And I'm learning to get good at something that I'm not supposed to be good at. So it's such a waste of energy. So the common thread is that everybody's starting to remember, oh my gosh, there's got to be more than this. This doesn't feel right. But then there's this deconditioning process that starts to happen, and it has to happen. It's a retrieval. That's why I call it. So it's a soul realignment. And I have this fun analogy, which I giggle every time I say it. But just like it's spiritual Google search option, imagine like a spiritual chiropractor, right? Soul realignment, like how you align your vertebrae, you align your soul. And that is the one aspect. But then it's a power retrieval, because you're getting your power back from all those places that have told you that you're not okay the way that you are. And that is the common theme, that it's really the history of humanity. And I also believe that the Akashic Records, my parents didn't have the Akashic Records. They didn't have access. The first book I saw about the Akashic Records was in the 90s. And I came in with the gift to open my own record, but I didn't know that until I was 39. And a whole bunch of unblocking and uncovering to actually live the gift, and deconditioning to then actually live it. Wow.
So, if you could give one tip to start us on the journey of getting back into alignment, like if we know there's something more, and I think with the pandemic, it's really brought to a lot of our attentions the fact that we're not quite living the lives that we want to be living. And I know there's probably a lot that needs to go on and a lot of healing and a lot of steps, but is there one thing that you think would at least help start to get us on that path of being a little bit truer to ourselves and moving towards alignment with what we're supposed to be doing here on earth and who we are?
Yes. May I share with you, I'm a lover of meaningful quotes. We probably, as authors and book readers, probably can relate. I'm sure your listeners can relate. And I actually, it's funny that you asked me this, and I'm so glad I have it right here, because I did my own podcast and I was using this quote today and I want to share it. So it's something Eckhart Tolle said. So there's 3 things I want to really bring home. So the first thing is, when you complain, you make yourself a victim. Leave the situation, change the situation, or accept it. All else is madness. So the first thing is, if you're knowing, that's that challenge. That's when people sometimes come to me with that challenge. And they are coming to me because they've made the decision, I can't accept this. This has got to change. And then they want the answers. So that's the first thing, to really get out of that drama of being a victim and come into your power. And then there's another beautiful quote, and I hope I might have to paraphrase. I'm not sure if I can say it correctly, but it's, and I also don't know if I can say his name right. It's Alexander Den Higher, I think. And he says, when a flower doesn't bloom, you don't fix the flower, you fix the environment the flower grows in. Which is, if you're in a toxic environment where you feel like a victim, change the environment. And sometimes it starts with you inside. And then the third favorite quote is, this is actually really bringing it home for me. When a personality comes to fully serve the energy of its soul, that is authentic empowerment. So that is from Gary Zukav, The Seat of the Soul. Yeah. So these are like, do these things and the next step will reveal itself.
That's great. And I think that's important for all of us to be reminded of, and for the listeners to hear, is that it is also step by step. Very rarely, if at all, I don't think I've ever come across somebody who's just had all the answers just given to them right then and there. It is a bit of a process, just like your story has told us. It's taking that next step and just trusting and taking that next step and everything. And then you were able to turn around your relationship, and you were able to write a book, and you were able to create your own business and all of that. So you've talked a little bit about your soul realignment, power retrieval, business and everything like that. But you said you've also got a podcast. And so your podcast aligns with that too, does it?
It does, yes. The podcast, it was the natural progression to the book and then to doing the work, because I noticed, and anybody that has written a book, it's a labor of love. It's not fast. And what was starting to happen is that I had a lot that I was experiencing with clients and that was wanting to come through. And initially I was like, okay, I want to write this book and I want to write that book, and it's not fast enough. So then that podcast came about, and it's called Soul Health Mentor, because I refer to myself as a soul health mentor. And the tagline is out of your mind and into your heart.
Ooh, I like that. That's cool. So, what is next for you then? So, you've got your podcast, you've got your business, and you've got your book. Do you have plans to write more books, or what's next for you?
You ask such great questions. I'm so grateful for you. I really am, because it's such a natural progression to talk to you about this and with you. So I just wanted to say thank you, because I'm super excited this next step. So the next step, yes, there is another book in me, and it does have to do with ancestral healing. And it is the chapter 11, or yeah, it was chapter 11 or chapter 10 in my book, where a mother's love and a daughter's healing. And the tagline, it came through when my mom passed. And the tagline will be, right now, it's a working title, but it does feel very grounded, is the solve of the divine feminine. And that is coming through. But now, having had some experience, I know it's going to have to align just like the first book. And I'm collecting, like my first book coach said, I'm collecting the content for the book by living and by connecting the dots. So it's not immediate. And I also have to release it. I have to get like not attached to it. It will happen when it happens. But the thing that is very real right now, which I'm super excited about, is you had already asked the question. You were like, okay, so how do you know to follow the whispers? How do you know? How do you build confidence? So what I learned in my work with people one-on-one is that there were some people that came to me with very firm goals and very firm intentions and very clear. And then their reading, clearing, and healing went really fast and clear. And then there were clients that it was also very effective in that there was a breakthrough, but there was also an insecurity about what is right and wrong for me, what is my goal. So I'm currently getting certified as a soul art guide.
That's exciting. But what is involved with being a soul art guide? So, how does art come into this?
Yes, you can imagine we all have a divine truth. And a divine truth is an authentic, subjective truth. It's how you experience your life. And it's not right or wrong, it's just subjective. It's a healing, just like the soul realignment was a certification process and is a healing modality. Soul art certification is also a healing modality. So it's a 5-step process to connect with your body. And this is what I love, because as long as we're like up here in our crown chakra, in our imagination, and we don't ground it into our body, we can't do anything. So the process helps you connect to your body, connect to your intuition, connect to your desires, and get your own intuitive guidance.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, I love that. So, I just have a couple more questions for you, but I'm wondering, just to round up a little bit here, what would be your final advice for my listeners out there? Maybe they haven't written a book before, they're listening to this podcast because they're curious and they think they've got a book in them, or they think they want to go down this creative path of writing in some form. What would be your advice for them at this stage?
It's always starting. It's always taking that one first step on a small, itty bitty, teeny tiny desire. And that's it. And then you grow a muscle. So I'm going to have to make up a story just to demonstrate. Let's say, and this is not book related right now, because it can all lead into it. So maybe the book desire is there, but the confidence is not there. But then there's this voice, because this is how higher self guidance work. Sometimes it's not directly related. And that's why it's like out of your mind and into your heart, because the mind is like, oh, this is so stupid. What does this have to do with that? But your soul is saying, you're going to do this because this is going to build your confidence. So sometimes our mind will say, what does that have to do with writing a book? But there's this whisper. And the situation is, yes, I want to write a book, but I don't have the confidence to even take one small step. I don't have it yet. So maybe the whisper of the soul is coming through inspiration, And I'm making this up just to demonstrate. So maybe the inspiration is, oh, you saw some salsa dancers and you saw some Latin dancers, or you saw someone in the Zumba class and you were like, oh my gosh, they're so cool. I could never do that. But maybe that's the step to just go move your body. Because I was talking about you got to get in your body. You manifest in your body, not in your mind. And maybe you got to take that Zumba class. And because dancing gives you confidence, even if you're terrible at it, it's not about that. It's not about judging. It's just about experiencing. And then maybe that Zumba class will lead to the confidence to actually also take a step in doing the book. Because that's what I find with my clients that are so uncertain of, yes, I kind of do know what I want, but I'm scared. Or yes, I know what I want, but I don't have the confidence. That's why the soul art certification is coming in now. So it's not about someone telling you what to do. It's about hearing your higher self guidance. What is your higher self doing? What are they saying that you should be doing as your next step?
It's like following those little breadcrumbs, isn't it? We may not see how the path takes us to our destination, but it does. We just got to follow those little breadcrumbs. So how can people connect with you? How can they find your podcast and read your book and maybe even work with you? Like, how can people connect with you?
Yes. So the podcast is available on my webpage in the sense if you want to hear the very first starting episodes. So the website is nadiakrauss.com, and then you'll see a button to the right that will say Soul Health Mentor. And then you actually also see a link to the book, which is on Amazon. So everything is actually on my website. And then you can just kind of browse the website, and my social channels are there, the book, testimonials, Soul Health Mentor, and obviously podcasts like yours as well. There's different channels. So then it's like Apple and Spotify and Amazon, even wherever you listen to podcasts.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It has been such a joy talking with you. And I love these conversations about getting in alignment with who you are and following your passions and those desires. So I've so appreciated this chat with you and learning from you. Thank you so much, Nadia.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure, Jo. Thank you.
I found that such an inspirational episode, and I really hope that you did too. So here are some takeaways from today's show. 1. Expect that when you follow your heart, bring your courage to the table and make a plan, things will not necessarily go to plan. Be flexible and trust your intuition. 2. What is meant for you cannot pass you by, and you can identify a soul whisper because it won't let you go. 3. If you set out to write a transformational book, expect to go through a transformation and come out a different person on the other side. 4. It's important to gift yourself support through the process, be it a coach or mentor of some sort. 5. What we refer to as writer's block or a creativity block is usually a form of self-protection because we don't feel safe. 6. To minimize fear and imposter syndrome holding you back, ensure your heart's desire is stronger than your fear. And 7. Whatever your soul desire, just start. Take that one first step, however small it is, and just start. So if you'd like to learn more about Nadia, make sure you do check out her website or visit the links in the show notes. And as a reminder, if you're looking to up-level your author career through rapid releasing without the burnout, I highly recommend you take a look at my friend and best-selling author Carissa Andrews' course, The Rapid Release Roadmap. You'll also find that link in the show notes. And on a final note, if you enjoy ghost stories, literary horror, or gothic suspense, all my books are on sale for 50% off for the month of October when you go to payhip.com/Jo Buer and use the coupon code SPOOKY, that's SPOOKY, at the checkout. So thank you for sticking around, my friends, for another episode of Alchemy for Authors. I hope this episode has left you inspired and even more determined to go after your soul's desires. And I'm wishing you a wonderful week ahead. And until next time, happy writing.